What's going on, everybody? Sam and Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I appreciate you guys for tapping in today. We got a great video for you guys today. We're going to be covering a lot of topics like Montana, Ndsu, MSU, Sdsu. Will they ever move up to the FBS? We'll talk about the Utah women's basketball team and what happened to them in the first round of the NCAA women's tournament. Caitlin Clark gets a huge deal from the Big Three. We are going to be talking about should there be more teams seeded in the FCS playoffs. We are going to be discussing Hailey Van Lith and her comments regarding the LSU women's basketball team. Going to be a great game on Monday night against them. The UFL is back. I don't know if any of you guys know about that, but it was a great weekend of football for them. The Final Four is set for the men's basketball tournament. We will discuss that. The 2024 draft is approaching. We'll have something to say about that. We'll talk about why NFL teams are moving on from young quarterbacks so quickly. We will discuss that. Then we will go to our fan questions. But got a lot of topics today for you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below your thoughts, and we will get straight into the video. Will Montana State, Montana, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, will they ever move up to the FBS level? This is an interesting topic that I think Sam Herder covers a lot, and this topic was inspired by him. I was looking at an article about him talking about some of the least subsidized teams in the FCS, Montana State, Montana, Ndsu, MSU being some of those schools. By subsidized, he means schools that get a lot of their funding, athletic department funding from student fees, booster fees and things of, or not even booster fees, but like student fees that have that like government fees, state fees, like schools that get their funding from those entities. Those schools, Montana State, Montana, Ndsu, Sdsu, are some of the lowest in that category, which means they get a lot of their support from the fans, ticket sales, and things of that nature, which is good, meaning that the universities, or at least the athletic departments, are self-sufficient. But in terms of moving up to the FBS, that doesn't really look good. I think, you'll need more of a bigger pot of money from other sources like student fees and things like that. He mentioned James Madison being one of the schools that gets some of the, I think, tops in the country in funding. Here, let me look at the article and I'll tell you guys some of what it talks about. So it talks about that FBS Eben Novi-Wilson of Sportico, I think it's Sportico, shared that James Madison, a recent FCS to FBS move up that has found great success in the Sun Belt Conference, reported $53.3 million in student fee subsidies in 2023. Novi Williams added that it's the largest total I've seen in 10 plus years of Rev expense reports, and it's bigger than the entire operating budget for 40 public FBS schools and also almost equal to JMU's 2022 athletics budget. So to say that is just painting the picture of what it will take for some of these schools to move up. James Madison, they got a lot of money from student subsidies, student fee subsidies, and that helps their athletic budget to be able to sustain itself at the higher levels, at the G5 level in the Sun Belt Conference. And then on the opposite of the spectrum, looking at James Madison and how much money they receive from student subsidies, Montana, Montana State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State are on the whole opposite spectrum of these schools. North Dakota State, only 25, almost 26% of its budget was subsidized, meaning money that comes from the state, the institution, or student fees. Montana is 34% of its money comes from subsidies. Jackson State being one of those at 39%. You got Montana State at 45%. You got North Dakota at 47%. And then you got South Dakota State at almost 48%. So some of the best schools in the subdivision are receiving most of their money from their fan base, people supporting the team, boosters, things of that nature, money that doesn't come from student fees, from the institution, from the state, so these are schools, and I would love to know why some of the schools, it actually proves itself. Not that it proves itself, but it might explain itself in it. Like, you might not need an explanation. Some of the best schools in the country are self-sustaining because they have strong fan bases. So maybe the key to being successful at the FCS level is more fan support and less support from the state, less support from institutions. But to move up to the FBS level, I think you need more funds. You need to put more into the athletic budget, and that doesn't really extend itself for these FCS schools, some of these blue bloods at the FCS level, because you need that money from not only your fan base, because I don't think your fan base can sustain you at the FBS level, at the G5 level, certainly probably not at the Power 5 level. So I mean, we may never see Montana, MSU, North Dakota State, South Dakota State move up. We may never get the luxury of getting to see them move up because of, they are self-sustaining at the FCS level. They do really well in their athletics budgets at the FCS level, but would that be possible at the FBS level? I think the point of Sam's article was trying to lay out the foundation for what it would take for these schools to move up. They do have strong fan bases that does sustain them at this level, but to move up, you'll need more money. You're going to need more help from the state. You're going to need more help from student fees. But in doing that, do you then ostracize your fan base? Do you then ostracize your prospective students by raising student fees, by raising all of this money, raising these fees so that you can get more money to move up to the FBS level? Would that lessen fan support? Would that lessen, one quote that I really loved that he said in here, and I think I put it in my notes. One quote that he said was, he said, "You wouldn't want to go from a FCS power to one of the least resource schools in your new FBS conference, or else it's harder to compete and fan support you lean on could dwindle." Yeah, so I mean, moving up to the FBS might be appealing to people on the outside, but from an athletic budget department standpoint, it doesn't really benefit these schools to move up. It doesn't really benefit us, Montana State, NDSU. It doesn't really benefit them to move up. They're winning at the FCS level. They have good money in their athletic departments at the FCS level. That may dwindle. Fan support may dwindle. I mean, I think Jackson State, James Madison's a good example of how to do it right. They do receive a lot of subsidies, one of the highest schools in FBS receiving subsidies, and then they also are competitive in the Sun Belt. They would have probably won the Sun Belt had they not been going through the transition period. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think James Madison has laid the groundwork for how to do that. But for other schools to do that who already aren't subsidized at that level, it may be kind of difficult for some of these teams to move up. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys think Montana State are good where they're at? I mean, I love the FCS, but do you think there could be potential for them to move up? Do you think they should move up, or do you think the way it's done right now is done perfectly? You guys let me know, and we will move on. Utah women's basketball team gets called racial slur multiple times in Spokane during NCAA tournament. While walking to the restaurant, a white truck got near the team, revved its engines to make its presence known, and then yelled the N-word towards the team before speeding off. My first question when I heard this was, I know Coeur d'Alene is not far from Spokane, so, it's like a 30, 45-minute drive, but why weren't they staying in Spokane? Were all the hotels commandeered in Spokane? Like, was there no space for them in Spokane? I'm really just wondering why they had to stay in Coeur d'Alene. I mean, that was my first question. My next question would be, like, what can be done about this? Like, I mean, obviously they can check the cameras. Obviously they can check everything, but, like, what can they do to hold these people accountable? What can they do to hold the people who did these things accountable? I don't know if there's anything that can be done to hold these people accountable. There's many, I mean, I don't know. I know they're trying to investigate it. I know they tried to make a statement about it because of, they tried to do it. They tried to make a statement about it later in the week, last weekend. There was this freedom rights group or something like that in Idaho that kind of protested it and was speaking over the speaker, so they had to end the press conference. But I think what needs to be done is, I think there needs to be they need to look into this and look how this happened. I mean, I don't know how you protect these women. I don't know why the situation happened. I haven't spent a ton of time in Coeur d'Alene. I know people from Coeur d'Alene. I've been to Coeur d'Alene a few times, but I haven't spent a ton of time in Coeur d'Alene. But I mean, every time I spent time in Coeur d'Alene, it was great. And I'm not, I know there's people out there trying to say that this didn't happen. I don't doubt for a second that it happened. Don't get me wrong there. I fully believe that this took place, and I believe these women when they say that they experienced this, because you wouldn't get a whole entire team and their coaches saying that something like this took place. And I don't get why they would have to lie about that. So when I see things like that online, it just kind of makes me mad, because it's like, it just pushes that same narrative that, I mean, it just pushes that narrative that you shouldn't trust these women, that these women are just trying to, I mean, I don't know what they would need attention from this for. Why would they want attention? They're already playing in the NCAA tournament. That's attention enough. The fact that they are trying to continue their season on, trying to be successful in the NCAA tournament, and they're being met with, racism and discrimination is just ridiculous. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know, that's the thing. I keep saying, I don't know what needs to be done. I don't know what can be done to protect these women. First and foremost, I think they need to be staying where all the other teams are staying, in Spokane or in Spokane Valley, closer to where they'll be playing their games at, which is Gonzaga. But in terms of like how they, like, what do you guys think they can do to protect women from this? Because obviously it's like you're in a city, and I feel like something like this could have happened in Spokane too. I mean, it just so happened that they were in Coeur d'Alene that this happened. I mean, you can hold the people accountable if you find them, but how are they going to find them? What are they doing in order to hold these people accountable? I mean, I haven't seen many updates on that. I know they're checking cameras and things of that nature, but what really can be done to protect these women in the future? I think that's what needs to be think about now. And I think that's what the people in power need to do, is like, so this happened. We understand that. How can we prevent this from happening in the future? How can we prevent these student athletes from feeling unsafe? Because they also mentioned, I think that there was multiple women on the team that mentioned that I think they were followed to their hotel. And I saw something last week also that said another team actually experienced this as well. So, there's people trying to intimidate these women, and, that's not an enjoyable experience for somebody who's playing postseason play. They earn their way to get to this tournament, and, you're being met with discrimination and racism. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous that, this is something that we're even having to deal with in 2024. And then the fact that when these women come out and say that this happened to them, there's people that will just sit there and say like, nah, like, I haven't seen any cameras. I haven't, I've lived in Coeur d'Alene for this long and nothing like this ever happened to me. Well, yeah, maybe that's your experience, but that's not their experience, So I think it's kind of crazy the way people treat situations like this. And I'm praying for these women and hoping that there's a solution that comes from this, and hopefully that the NCAA people in power learn from this and learn. I mean, that's the thing, is like, what can they learn? It's the people who perpetuated the racism and discrimination who really need to learn. I'm sure the NCAA had their reasons for why they had the women staying in Coeur d'Alene. I would love to know those reasons, but I'm sure they had their reasons. But I don't know how much fault the NCAA is at for what happened to these women at this point. Yeah, sure, you can blame them staying in Coeur d'Alene, but I feel as though this could have happened anywhere. This could have happened in any state. There's racism and discrimination everywhere, and obviously we'd love our country not to be like that, but some people are the way they are. So how can they prevent this from happening in the future? What do you guys think about this? Did you guys see this online? Did you guys hear about this happening? And what are you guys' thoughts on this? Caitlin Clark gets offered a $5 million deal from Ice Cube and the Big Three. Now, if you guys don't know what the Big Three is, it is a league that plays, I believe, during the summertime, 3-on-3 basketball. They play half court teams. I don't know how big teams are, but a lot of times it's a lot of former players who played in the NBA. I know Joe Johnson was really big in the Big Three, and he made a name for himself outside of the NBA. He made his name in the NBA, but he had a really good Big Three career. I don't know if he still plays in the Big Three. I would have to check that. But Caitlin Clark getting offered $5 million, and I don't know what the contracts in the Big Three are like. I don't know what guys are making in the Big Three. I don't know, what the contract structure looks like. But this seems like a hefty price to pay for somebody. But I think this is I mean, good job for Ice Cube capitalizing on this moment. Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest, I'm not even gonna say women sports icon. She's one of the biggest people in sports right now, men or women. I mean, you look at the men's side of basketball, I can probably think of, she's bigger than anybody on the men's side. And that's why I've been talking about women's basketball and the women's tournament and people's interest. I mean, I'm recording this on Monday, and tonight we have LSU versus Iowa, which is going to be amazing. If you guys remember the national championship last year, that was a really good game. And then you got UConn versus USC. So two amazing games taking place in the women's tournament. I think, are we still Elite Eight? I think it's still the Elite Eight going to the final, looking to go to the Final Four, which would, I think be this weekend. But two amazing games taking place, and man, I'm super excited to see it take place. But just speaking on that, like, people are super excited for Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, Kim Mulkey versus just keep seeing Kim Mulkey. I mean, the LSU team with all the fire and attitude that they play with versus Iowa. I mean, two great teams, a bunch of great players on both teams. Caitlin Clark being the biggest in the sport at the moment. She fell short last year to LSU, so everybody's looking at it. But Caitlin Clark getting this offer is honestly crazy. And I know there was people coming out saying, like, why didn't other women athletes get this offer at the time? And I just think plainly nobody was as big as Caitlin Clark is right now. I mean, I think she broke the scoring record in NCAA, the women's NCAA. She might have broke the scoring record in NCAA basketball, period. I know she broke the 3-point record. I mean, she's broken records. She's got all the awards. Everybody is talking about her. Everybody wants to see her. Everybody loves her. She's an icon in women's basketball. She's an icon in college basketball in general. This is amazing, and I'd be interested to know, because I did see them say, I know the WNBA plays during the summer as well, so I know there will be some conflicts of interest with games and stuff like that. But man, I mean, if she actually does it, I know that's going to be great for the Big Three. I hope it would be great for the Big Three. I know people would be tapped in. People want to watch her play in college. Why wouldn't they want to watch her play in the WNBA, in the Big Three? I think it's great for the Big Three brand. And I mean, honestly, crazy that she even got the offer. I mean, great for them. Great for them. I don't know how many women have played in the Big Three before. I don't watch the Big Three a lot, to be honest with you, but I know what they do, and I know it's good for basketball in general. So them extending that olive branch to Caitlin Clark is only going to grow their brand, and is only going to bring more eyes to the brand. And hopefully in doing that, bringing more eyes to the Big Three, it also brings more eyes to the WNBA. And ultimately that's the goal, is, to help grow the women's game like they have done in the college level, to hopefully do that at the professional level. Hopefully the Big Three and the WNBA can both accomplish that, because I know, that's one of the big discussions when it comes to women's basketball, is the pay gap and how much the men make in the NBA and how much the women make in the WNBA. It's vastly different. It's vastly different. Like, some of these guys are making more in one game than some of these women make all season. So, and honestly, and obviously it's a longer season for the NBA, and they have more viewership. They got bigger sponsors and all of these things. But, I think there's definitely ways out there that they can grow the women's game. And if they continue to do things like the Big Three is attempting to do, to give Caitlin Clark a platform, and, giving her this platform is going to do nothing but help grow the women's game. And I'm super excited for the possibilities. Hopefully she accepts it. That becomes the next question, is like, is she going to accept the offer, or is she just going to, choose to focus on the WNBA? That would be the next question, because, the Big Three, I think they have to be very strategic with when they play their season, because you don't want to overlap with the NBA season, which is from like October till June. It's a really long season, so there's only a short window for you to do things outside of the NBA season, unless you want to try to overlap with the NBA, which probably wouldn't go over well. So there's only a certain window that they can play. That's why the WNBA season takes place when it does, and that's why the Big Three season takes place when it does. So hopefully they're able to find a way for it to work. But I think this is good for women's basketball, and I think it's a really good opportunity for Caitlin Clark. Hopefully she accepts it and chooses to play, and hopefully we get to see how it turns out. You guys let me know what you guys think about that, if you guys saw it, and if you guys think it'll be a success. Okay, I saw this tweet and it made me laugh, and it made me think of the Grizz football team. It made me think of when I was in college, and I want to explain it to you guys. I know I haven't done the best or worst thing I saw last week in a long time, but this is definitely the best thing I saw last week, and it brought up some great memories. So I'm explaining the story to you guys. So I was on Twitter and I saw this tweet. It said, my son 7 has discovered D's nuts jokes, and it's all he says now. Everything is D's nuts. He simply can't stop. I asked him where he heard that joke. He made me promise that if he told me, he wouldn't get in trouble. I agreed. So he leans in and whispers, D's nuts. And I cried laughing when I saw that, because not just because I thought that was a little funny, but it brought up a great memory. 2021. Skylar, man, So if any of you guys know, Skylar Martin used to play for the Grizz. He was a lineman. He was a lineman for the Grizz. He was a year after me, so I think he came in with the 2017 class. He might have came in 2018, but he was a lineman, really funny guy, and he used to always get people with like these nuts jokes. Like he would always have one, so you always had to be on edge when you were talking to him. And it got really bad. It was like contagious on the team in 2021, and everybody was figuring out new these nuts jokes to get people caught. Like it was a great time, but it made everybody vigilant. It made everybody aware. Like nobody wanted to answer any open-ended question because they knew that punchline was coming. Like it was it was a minefield. It was crazy. Everybody had trust issues. Nobody was trusting of anybody else, and it was just super fun. It was a good time. Well, we had this rookie, Brady and Podrick Lang, the twins. Brady is a receiver, but he was a freshman receiver at the time, a redshirt freshman at the time, and he didn't really talk a lot, but we were all joking around. We always have fun, so he would hear all the jokes, and he set me up amazingly. So I can't even remember the joke, but he basically it was like a 2-day joke, so it was really, really good. He basically set it up one day and was like, hey, my friend Matt, he was like, my friend Matt from, I can't even remember the name he said, but man, I wish I remember the joke fully, but he said, my friend Matt, he goes to BA, he said he knows you, he said he knows you. Oh yeah, this is, okay. He said, hey, my friend Matt, he goes to BA, he said he knows you, he's a freshman or whatever, yeah, you know, do you know him? And I was like, nah, I haven't heard of him. So, it was whatever. We went to practice, did what we did. The next day he comes up to me. It might have been the next day or it might have been later the day, but it was a joke that took some time. So he came back to me the next day and was like, hey, did you ever figure out who that guy was? And I was like, no, I couldn't figure it out. I said, what's his last name? And then just like that, he got me relaxed and he caught me off guard and he was like, these nuts. And oh my gosh, when I tell you the receiver room or everybody died laughing because it was the setup. He did a really good job setting me up for this joke. And I remember I couldn't do anything but just laugh. I was crying laughing because this was just the whole fall camp that people were making jokes like this, the whole fall camp that people were getting set up for these jokes. And Brady probably had the best one of the whole fall. And it just, man, it was hilarious. And man, it was a good time. It brought back a good memory, but I wanted to bring that up to you guys because it just, when I saw that tweet, it just made me laugh and made me think of that time that Brady got me so good. And imagine I'm the senior, this guy, he's a freshman, not really talking that much, not really, he's probably talking to his freshman guys, but he wasn't talking to us that much. So I didn't hear him talk that much. So, I was just interested in anything he had to say and ended up being a crazy joke. I thought he really knew somebody from BA. So I thought we were making a connection, and then he just broke my heart. Man, have you guys ever had has there been a time where you guys got set up for a good joke like that? Because, man, that one left a lasting impression on me. Let me know what you guys thought about that. I thought it was hilarious, but you guys can leave a comment and let me know. Should FCS teams seed 16 teams in the playoffs? Now, this is also an article from Sam Herder, a topic that comes from Sam Herder, and I think it's actually pretty interesting. I think it's a great idea. I think there definitely should be 16 seeded teams, and we're going to read some of the language about it. After falling one approval short last offseason, there is another push to seed more teams in the 24 team FCS playoff bracket. This is from Sam Herder. More seeds would result in less regionalization, more balanced early round matchups, and more transparency on who hosts in the first round. I think that's really great because if you think about some of these matchups that we get early on in the tournament, it's a lot of times they're overweight matchups, or a lot of times some teams are having to travel really far, or there's a lot. If you look at 25% of FCS membership, you're probably looking at a range of 30 to 36 teams in that field. Eastern Kentucky Director of Athletics, Matt Rohn. An increase in seeded teams within the 2014 bracket would result in a more national tournament feel, more even matchups in the early rounds, and more transparency on who hosts. Yeah, I know that's something that people struggle with a lot in the FCS tournament bracket is who gets to host and why do they get to host over another city, And I know they do the bid model, so it's I believe I think the bids are put in like before the season or during the season, but the way it works is, you make it to the playoffs, then you put in a bid for how much, you put in a bid to host a playoff game. And, I don't think you're privy to whoever else. I mean, you're not privy to how much else other people put up. You just put up what you want to put up. And, I think whoever puts up the most money gets to host the game. So you got to believe that, some of the smaller schools are never going to, even if they have a great record, some of the smaller schools are never even going to have an opportunity to host a game because of, financial issues. In the current format, 16 unseeded teams are paired up in the first round based on regionalization, and the host team is determined by a combination of bid amount, revenue potential, facilities, athlete experience, and team performance. Yeah, so, hosting is basically like it's kind of like a money. I mean, it's all about money. And I talked about that, about college football, about the playoff, about the college football playoff at the FBS level. I've talked about this multiple times. It's all about money. Who's got the most money? That's why anytime I see Montana make the playoffs, no matter what, I know they're going to get a home playoff game because they got money, they got facilities, they got the team performance. Like, we got everything that they're looking for in unseeded teams. So, that's why they're always hosting. The new format in a 16-seeded team bracket would be seeds 1 through 8 get a first round bye. So that's how it is already. Seeds 9 through 16 host first round games, which would, be a good idea. Seeds 9 through 16 host a team from a pool of the 8 remaining unseeded teams based on regionalization, but avoiding regular season rematches. Yeah, so that's another thing that takes place a lot of times is like Furman played Chattanooga once again, not in the first round, but in the second round. They played Chattanooga, and I know Chattanooga is in the same conference as them. They had beat Chattanooga in the regular season. They ended up playing them in the postseason. Number 1 seed plays the winner of the number 16 versus unseeded matchup. Number 2 seed plays the winner of the number 15 versus unseeded matchup. Number 8 seed plays the winner of the number 9 versus unseeded matchup, and so on. So, it would be like a real tournament type feel. The highest seed is playing against the lower seeds. The lower seeds are having to play against the higher seeds no matter, what regionalization looks like. But it's even saying that these remaining 8, so the first round games would be based on regionalization. After that, it's all based on, if you win or you lose and where you're seated at, which is good and which is how it should be. I think 16 seeded teams would be great to match up some of these teams. Some of these 9 through 16 teams. Like, I'm trying to think who would have been seeded in the bracket last year who wasn't seeded. Maybe North Dakota State would have been a seed. Maybe Furman was a seed. I'm trying to think. Was Albany? I think Albany was a seed. I'm trying to think. Let me pull up the NCAA bracket. Maybe a Richmond. I know they won the CAA. They shared the CAA. Probably all 3 of those CAA teams probably would have been a seed. Either way, 16 seeded teams in the playoff bracket is good. It would help even out those first round matchups. If you look at that North Dakota State versus Drake matchup, 66-3 is absolutely ridiculous. So I think that is what they're kind of trying to avoid. Maybe get more even matchups in the first round. Hopefully this goes. I don't know if they're voting on this offseason, but hopefully they move towards that because it could really help the FCS playoff bracket out. It could really help some of these lower teams out, and maybe make for some more exciting matchups. Maybe if they did seed more teams, there would be more exciting matchups in the first round of the playoffs instead of some of these blowouts. Maybe we'd get more competition in the first round matchups, and I think maybe that's what Sam means by more of a tournament feel. Maybe it's more of, instead of just the good teams beating up on the bad teams so that they can get higher up in the bracket, maybe that would make for more competition at the lower ends of the bracket, on the outsides of the bracket, make for better games to watch. There were some really good games in the playoffs last year, but there were also some pretty crazy blowouts. So maybe that's what they're trying to combat, and maybe that's what they're trying to get closer to, is more competitive matchups. But you guys let me know what you guys think about a potential 16 seeded teams in the FCS playoffs. Is it needed, or is it whatever? Hailey Van Lith talked about the racist remarks originally written in the LA Times preview of the UCLA versus LSU matchup. So the article in the LA Times was previewing the UCLA LSU game, which was played, I think they played on Sunday. They played on Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Sunday or Saturday. I think they played Saturday. It was written by Ben Bulk, and some of the quotes that he had in there. I don't know if all of these were retracted, but I know the first one I'm going to read was retracted. But he said, "Do you prefer America's sweethearts or dirty debutantes?" Crazy statement. The team that wants to grow women's basketball or the one seemingly hell-bent on dividing it? The coach who embraces reporters or the one who attacks them? The tender star player or the one who taunts? And, I don't really even know what the point of him calling them those names, like dirty debutantes. I don't even know what that means. And, I really applaud Hailey Van Lith because she doesn't have to stand up for her teammates. I appreciate the fact that she's willing, the reporters are asking her this question and she's willing to stand behind her teammates and fight for them, fight for their rights and fight for what she believes in. And she believes that they were unjustly treated. She feels that the remarks in the LA Times were racist, which I agree. Like dirty debutantes. Do you prefer America's sweethearts or dirty debutantes? So what are you saying? Because UCLA is from Westwood and they probably have a predominantly white team, and LSU has a predominantly black team, and they're from the South, that they're dirty debutantes. I mean, I don't really know what he's meaning by that, but I think he's towing a dangerous line, and I do appreciate the LA Times retracting these statements, but I wish they were just never written, because even though you can retract the statements, that still doesn't change that you believe this and you were willing to type it out and were willing to publish it for the masses to see. Like, you can turn back and try to change your mind after the fact, but you only changed your mind because people were outraged. If people weren't outraged, you wouldn't have changed it at all. So it's like, I appreciate Hailey Van Lith saying what she said and doing what she did and protecting her teammates because, I don't know. That's commendable for her to do because she doesn't have to do that. And she's going out on a limb, allowing people to scrutinize her for potentially protecting her players. I don't think she should be scrutinized, but we know how America is. And, there are going to be people who come after her and say that, oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, just focus on the game, shut up and dribble, whatever they may say. But I appreciate her protecting her teammates, and hell yeah, I'm happy that she did that. It's great for her to do that. And I think that will help charge her team up and help, you want to, that only brings the team together. And, she even said when she was talking to the media after the game that, like, seeing that article, she wishes it was never written, because even though they can use that as motivation, she doesn't think that should be something that should be used to motivate them. Like, they're internally motivated. They want to win. They don't need something racist and discriminatory like that being said about them so that they can play better. They're already going to play hard. So I think it's just crazy. I'm glad they won. But I think it's crazy that was even written. Did you guys see this? What do you guys think about this? You guys let me know in the comments what you thought about that. Hey, the UFL is back. The merged league between the USFL and the XFL is officially back, and it was amazing. If you guys didn't watch some of these games this weekend, I feel sorry for you. Not LSU. First off, the USFL conference went 2-0 versus the XFL conference. I know, Pat McAfee was pretty angry about the USFL, saying that, that it was a worse league. There was much, much better competition in the XFL, much better talent in the XFL. The XFL was just a better league. And, that's his opinion. I mean, I'm not mad about it. He can feel how he wants to feel. I guess he feels some type of way about the USFL. I guess they asked him to kick for him or something. And, he wasn't happy about it. But, the USFL put their stamp on the league this weekend, on the UFL this weekend, and went 2-0. The Birmingham Stallions played against the Arlington Renegades, the two champions, one from the USFL, the Birmingham Stallions, and the Arlington Renegades from the XFL. They played, and the Birmingham Stallions won pretty handedly. Both teams started off pretty slow, but, Birmingham settled in, and they were able to get the dub, finding their way on the ground, being able to complete passes through the air. Really a balanced attack for Birmingham, which is what they've always done, being really good on third down, which is what I think they're strong at. They're a really strong third down team. I don't know their numbers on third down from the game. I don't have them right in front of me, but there were some crucial third down completions that they had throughout the game that really helped them get the dub, and they won. Then what I would say is probably the game of the weekend. You had the St. Louis Battlehawks of the XFL, formerly of the XFL, versus the who did they play? The Michigan Panthers, who made the playoffs, I believe, in the USFL last year, but they lost to the Maulers, who went to the championship. Really good game, really defensive battle. I mean, this Michigan squad has some dogs. Nakua at safety, linebacker. I think he's a safety. Plays downhill, really fast player. They got Frank Genda, the defensive player of the year from last year in the USFL. They got, what's his name? Breland Speaks on their D-line, the D-end, who I thought he was going to be the defensive player last year in the USFL. He ended up losing and not getting it. His teammate ended up getting it, but really good defense for Michigan. And then you got the St. Louis Battlehawks, strong offensive team, Hakeem Butler, AJ McCarron, Wayne Gallman at running back. They got some really other good receivers on the team, Darius Shepard, really good players, but really Marcel Aitman, who had a really good game. That game came down to the wire. For a second, it seemed like, the St. Louis Battlehawks were going to come out with the win. They scored late in the game with like 40 seconds left. Marcel Aitman made an amazing catch. First off, he made an amazing catch on 4th down, and then he made an amazing catch on a 4th and goal. They had to have it, come back at the goal line. He made the play, got in the end zone. They went for the 1-point conversion to take the lead. They got it as well with a little mesh route, getting the tight end wide open. The Michigan tried to pass it off, and they missed on passing it off, and he was wide open. Really, really exciting game. Then Michigan gets the ball back with about 40 seconds. No timeouts. They had no timeouts. They completed a couple passes, got it to around like the 45 or, got it around the 40. They got it around like the, what would that be? Around like the 41, 40. They got it around the 45-yard line and brought their kicker out there. And the commentators were like, I guess they're just going to kick it. There was only 8 seconds left, but they didn't have any timeouts. So you're either going, it was on 4th down too. So you're either going for it on a 4th and 10 and potentially getting it and hoping you can get out of bounds, or you're taking your 3 right now. They actually had hit a curl route on a 4th down earlier in that drive that got them right there. And I think they had mentioned how they said their kicker had hit 65, but hopefully they didn't have to hit a 65-yarder. And he ended up hitting a 64-yarder, and he hit it twice. He hit it once, they iced him, and he kicked it anyway, and it looked better. I honestly think the first one looked better, but the second one looked really good too. He looked like he had about 70 yards in there. But if you guys are not tapped into the UFL, I ask you that you guys need to be tapped into the UFL. It's great football, great competition. I mean, it was amazing. Great games being played, and I was honestly happy to see that the USFL went 2-0 just because of what Pat McAfee had said, and also just because, I have a lot of teammates who were on my squad last year in the USFL, who are in the UFL this year, who did really well. So it was really good to see that. Really good to see that. I think Jake Bates, who the kicker for the Michigan Panthers, Jake Bates is the kicker for the Michigan Panthers. I think he is looking to do what Brandon Aubrey did last year for the Birmingham Stallions. He played for the Birmingham Stallions. I think he didn't miss any kicks, or he probably missed I don't think he missed many kicks for the Birmingham Stallions last year, and ended up getting signed by the Dallas Cowboys, became an all-pro, Pro Bowler, all the things. Like, he had an amazing season. Hopefully he's going to continue his career in the NFL and have a great career. He was formerly a soccer player, similar to Jake Bates. Jake Bates kicked in high school, went to college. I believe he played soccer in college and is coming back to the game now. Hasn't attempted a kick since high school and made a 64-yarder for game. Mind you, this Michigan and St. Louis Battlehawks game was played in Detroit in Lions Stadium, where Justin Tucker made the longest field goal in NFL history at 66 yards. On the same upright that Jake Bates made his kick on the same upright at 64 yards, which was the longest kick in UFL history. So, I mean, it was an amazing game, amazing weekend of football. The Brahmas, the San Antonio Brahmas played against the DC Defenders, and the Houston Roughnecks played against the Memphis Showboats. Those were good games as well. But I believe the 2 games on Saturday, well, honestly, the Birmingham Stallions game wasn't great, but it was just good to see some spring football again. But that Battlehawks versus Michigan Panthers game was really good. So make sure you guys tap into the UFL. It's week 2 is coming fast. It'll be here this weekend. I believe they're going to be playing on Saturday and Sunday as well, same as they did this weekend. Should be some really good games. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but there's some really good games on the slate. So please go tap into the UFL. It's great football, and you guys will not be disappointed. I wanted to talk about something else that the UFL does. One thing I think that is really cool in the UFL that I think they could maybe benefit from in the NFL is, in the UFL, they have a super challenge, which means at any point in the game, as long as you have a timeout, at any point in the game, you can challenge one play, no matter what it is. Say they spotted the ball wrong. You can challenge that. Say they say somebody ran out of bounds and he really scored. You can challenge that. Say they say you roughed the passer and you don't think you did. You can challenge that. You can challenge anything that happens in the game. And I think they should do that in the NFL, especially now that they put this hip drop tackle in there, especially now that they got a lot of these rules that can be judged one way or the other. I think the NFL could 100% benefit from having a super challenge to where you can challenge anything, no matter what play it is, no matter what happens, you can challenge it. I think that would really be great in the NFL, and I think they would benefit greatly from that. They also have this digital first down marker using like a bunch of 4K cameras on the field so that, when they get first downs or when they're like third and short or fourth and short, instead of bringing the sticks out to measure it, they go to the digital, they look at the digital marker and they judge it by that. I don't know the accuracy rate. I haven't seen the numbers on how accurate or how inaccurate it is. It seems to be pretty accurate because it seems to get it right, and nobody seems to have a big problem with it. I think they could benefit from that in the NFL. I think it would. There's not a lot of controversy on ball spots in the NFL in the first place. I think the method they have is fine. I think the NFL could really benefit from the Super Challenge, though. I think that's something that the UFL does right. I know that the NFL is implementing the XFL's old kickoff method, a little different way of doing it, but they're implementing what was started in the XFL into the NFL. So I think they could pull something else. That's another thing that I think is good with the UFL, and as well as when the XFL and USFL were separate. They give the big league like the NFL, or even maybe, the CFL is a different game. So, it's the same game but played differently. I think that's one thing that the UFL can bring to the NFL is not only being a league to help develop some of these players who maybe need a little more time to develop outside of the NFL, but also it gives them, like, if there's a rule that the NFL is considering, they can say, okay, well, let's see the UFL do it and see how it works in the UFL. Similar to how they do it in baseball. When they want, like in the MLB, I believe they tried how they did the clock, the clock for the pitch clock for the MLB. I'm pretty sure they tried that out in the minor leagues before they moved it up to the MLB. That could be similar to how they do it in the UFL and the NFL. Try these rules out in the UFL just like they did the kick. They saw the kick in the XFL. Now the NFL's trying it for a year. So I think this could really benefit the league. The Super Challenge is something I'm super happy about with the UFL, and I think the NFL could benefit from it. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys think the NFL needs a Super Challenge? I'm sure there's a lot of people that think there is the need for a Super Challenge in the NFL, but you guys let me know what you think about that. The Final Four of the men's college basketball tournament is set. Purdue is set to take on NC State, and UConn is set to take on Alabama. Alabama has a really great player. I don't know if he's a center, power forward, or what position he is. Grant Nelson, formerly of Ndsu, is now at Alabama. I wasn't hip to him. I'm not really tapped into college basketball like that, men's college basketball like that, but I saw him play. I can't even remember who they played before they played. I can't even remember who they played before they played their last game. They just played somebody on either Saturday or Sunday. But the game before that, I watched them last week, and Grant Nelson balled out. I can't remember what he dropped, but even he balled out. And then on the Purdue NC State side, you got Edey versus DJ Burns. DJ Burns has been, tearing it up lately. Everybody's a fan of him right now. He's really stolen the hearts of America right now, and he's got his own business doing vending machines, and as well as being a star basketball player. And then you got Edey, who dropped 40 last night and was talking a lot of crap. Dalton Connect dropped 37 and Edey dropped 40 in a back-to-back game that Purdue was able to win by 6. And they're moving on to their first Final Four, I think, in like 30-something years, a long time. And then Alabama, they played on Saturday, and they beat Clemson. That's right. And I can't remember who Alabama had played before they played Clemson. Let me see if I can find it. Alabama played North Carolina. That's right. Yes. And they upset North Carolina, number 4 versus number 1. Yes. In the Sweet 16 last week. Clemson upset Arizona. Yes. Okay. It's all coming back. Not even last week. It was on Thursday. But those upsets took place, and then Alabama and Clemson played each other. Alabama came out with the dub. Clemson was the underdog in that matchup, so Alabama won. And then UConn. Man, I don't know if anybody can beat UConn. They're an 11-point favorite against Alabama right now, and I think that may be generous. I don't know. They went on a 30-0 run against Illinois at one point in the game. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is some crazy defense. They ended up winning the game by 20, I think. Yeah, they won 77-52, but still, like, going on a 30-0 run, that means you've scored 30 points and the other team has not put the ball in the hoop. Not once in that 30-0 run. That is crazy. Really good defense, really good basketball. But I'm excited for these matchups. I'm excited. I'm honestly more excited for tonight, which is Monday, LSU, Iowa. And I mentioned this earlier. I'm more excited for LSU, Iowa, and UConn, USC, Juju Watkins versus Paige Beckers. And just like that, like, I don't even know one UConn player's name, men's UConn player's name. And I only know one UConn women's player's name, so I'm not, going to act like I'm super versed. But, I know some of the stars on the women's side. Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Flage for LSU, Kim Mulkey. I know Gino Ariema, the head coach. I don't even know. I mean, either way, I'm super excited for these games. Men's tournament is going to be great. Women's tournament is going to be great. Purdue versus NC State. Who do you guys got in that game? Alabama versus UConn. Who do you got in that game? Do you think Alabama can upset UConn? I don't think it looks like anybody can stop UConn right now, so I'd be really interested to see who can stop them. But you guys let me know what you guys think about these matchups. It's going to be amazing this weekend. Those games take place on No. Those games are taking place on Saturday, April 6th. NC State versus Purdue in the Final Four, and Alabama versus UConn. And then the championship will probably be Monday. So you guys let me know who you guys got in this matchup. NC State or Purdue? Do you got DJ Burns? Do you got Edie? DJ Burns has been balling. Edie's been balling too. I think it might be hard for DJ Burns to score. Or do you guys got Alabama or UConn? Does Alabama upset UConn, or does UConn keep rolling? You guys let me know, and we will move on. Yeah. Why do NFL teams move on from young quarterbacks so soon? This is a topic that I pulled from Ari Mayrov. He posted a tweet talking about an NFL exec talking about why teams move on from young quarterbacks so young, and I'm going to read that right now. Of the NFL exec, I think it was an AFC executive that had said this, said, QBs are drafted more based on their position than their actual skill. Players like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson would likely be second or third round picks if they came out when Aaron Rodgers did. The fact that they are considered top prospects highlights how desperate teams are for a quarterback and how inflated the quarterback market has become. Of the top 6 quarterbacks selected in the 2022 NFL draft, just 2 are still with their original team, and both are backups at best. Of the 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 15 picks of the 2021 draft, only Trevor Lawrence is a starter, and by the end of the season, he will more than likely be the only one still with his original team. This is a little interesting. So one thing I went and looked at is like, how many teams have won without a great QB? Super Bowl winners since 2000. Ravens 2001, Trent Dilfer. Maybe you could say he's a game manager. And then Peyton Manning on the Broncos in 2016. Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer. He's a great quarterback, but at that time in his career, he wasn't the Peyton Manning we had knew. He could still command the offense, but he couldn't really move the ball down the field like he used to be in his career. So that's only why I put him in there. But if you even want to take Peyton Manning off of there, you got Trent Dilfer on there. So, I mean, if you look at how you win in the NFL, you need a great quarterback. But if you look at, what's coming out of college, it seems to me that there's a development problem with quarterbacks. I'm not a quarterback developer. I'm not a quarterback guru or anything, but it just seems like when these guys get to the league, they're not so much ready to command offense. And also, I think the reason that teams are moving on so young is because they're seeing these guys sooner. I mean, it used to be that most of these guys would wait. Tom Brady, he waited. Aaron Rodgers, he waited. I mean, you can go down the list of great quarterbacks that had to wait behind somebody before they got their opportunity. And I think that's what's making, these guys are just being thrusted into the spotlight, being thrusted into the spot, expected to carry a whole franchise at 21, 22 years old, and they've never even been in the NFL before. They've never played live snaps before. And now you're saying, take us to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think it's hard to do. And I think that also should shed light on why what Brock Purdy did this last season was so great, because he did lead his team to the Super Bowl, did lead his team to the NFC Championship, and I think could have led his team to the Super Bowl last year, but led his team to the Super Bowl this year in his second year. And then like CJ Stroud, I mean, I think these guys are anomalies. They're guys who, have the mental capacity, but also have the athletic ability to be able to get the job done. And also, that's another thing, talking about athletic ability. I think, quarterbacks in the NFL this year, not this year, quarterbacks today depend more on athleticism and less on mental processing speed. The ones who have both stand out. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, maybe some people wouldn't put him on there. CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts. I'm just trying to think about some of the quarterbacks who are, got the arm talent, are athletic, and also can process and get the job done. Joe Burrow could probably fit in that category. He can run a little bit. He can run if he needs to. I think we're getting way more athletic quarterbacks these days and less quarterback. I think the emphasis on athleticism is being highlighted these days, and there's being less emphasis put on, how they process, how they read a defense, how they do this and that. I don't know. I'm not one of these evaluators, but this is just what it seems like. And it really sucks to see some of these guys get, moved on from so fast, like Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett got drafted last year, and he's already traded. He played 2 seasons with the Steelers, and he's already gone. Justin Fields, I think, was with the Bears for 2 or 3 seasons. He's already gone. These guys are not lasting long. And then you look at Jordan Love with the Packers. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 or 4 seasons before he got his opportunity. And when he got his opportunity, you saw what he was able to do. They started off a little slow, but once they finally got their wheels rolling, he looks great. He looks like one of the top 5 or 10 quarterbacks in the league right now. So, people need to watch out for them. But do you guys think there's a development problem with quarterbacks at the college level or even at the NFL level? Or do you think there's a development problem with quarterbacks at college and high school level, or do you think it falls on the NFL's plate for them to develop these guys? I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think the NFL's job is to help develop these guys into professional quarterbacks, but I think there probably is maybe a development problem with some of these guys when they're coming out of college, when they're coming out of high school. It both can be true, but I do know it sucks to see some of these guys get drafted so high and then get moved on from so fast. I would wonder why these teams are so okay with using such a high draft pick on a player that the hit rate is so low. I guess it's because when you do hit, it's great for your franchise. You get more money for the franchise. It brings in fans. It brings in revenue. Everybody eats when there's a great quarterback. Look at what Patrick Mahomes has done for Kansas City. Look at what CJ Stroud has done for the Texans. Look at what Joe Burrow has done for the Bengals. Everybody is trying to emulate that, but I think it's so hard because these great legendary quarterbacks are so far in between. So I think, and also it's if guys aren't getting the job done, I think teams are so quick to move on or so quick to pick somebody as a backup. And, maybe they need to just stick with these guys a little longer, trust these guys a little longer and trust the process. A lot of times too, when you get these guys in your building, they don't have the best pieces around them. The situation isn't great. They've changed coordinators, head coaches multiple times. And then, you're trading already the quarterback, and it's you haven't put him in a situation to where he can be successful yet. So it's and that's kind of what it is with Kenny Pickett. They had Canada as his offensive coordinator. They traded him to the middle of the season last year. Not traded him, but they let go of him to the middle of the season last year. And then they traded Kenny Pickett in this offseason. So it's you haven't even given him a full, they gave him one full offseason as a rookie to work with Canada, but they haven't even given him a full season to work with one guy. And then next thing you know, he's out of there. Maybe they knew he wasn't the guy. Maybe they had already lost faith in him, but I think man, NFL quarterbacks are far in between. And, it seems like every year there's guys that are getting 5 or 6 guys that are getting straight salivated over when in reality, most times only 2 or 3 of these guys are probably going to be for all pros or, probably even less of them. One out of, I don't know the numbers, but the hit rate is very low on NFL quarterbacks. And, I think the NFL needs to figure out, how do they fix that? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Next, we will be going to fan questions, subscriber questions. I only got one question this week, but it is from Timothy Dorn. And he said, Portal, how many leave FCS versus how many D2 or FBS transfer in? This question is from Timothy Dorn. Well, Timothy, per On3, 2,344 players have entered the portal. 57% of those players are committed, and 4% of those players have withdrawn. Now, this next is per Sam Herder. 223 FCS players are heading to FBS schools, and how many leave FCS versus how many D2 FBS transfer in. 343 FBS players are heading to FBS schools. So that answers your FBS question. I don't have D2 numbers. I wish somebody would do D2 FCS D2 transfer numbers. Maybe if there's an article out there, or maybe if there's a link that you can find those numbers, let me know in the comments. But 343 FBS players are transferring in as of December 12th. So those numbers have probably gone up. There's probably more FBS players that are transferring into FCS schools as of this point, or we'll probably see more in the spring as spring progresses, as spring ball finishes up, and as these semesters finish up. I don't have the D2 numbers, but how many players are heading to new FCS schools? 238 FCS players are heading to new FCS schools, and 223 players, so about 460 players are going laterally or going up from the FCS, and 343 FBS players. These are as of December 11th and 12th. These articles were as of, I think they've been updated, but we're just going to go as of December 12th. There's about 340 FBS players going down to FCS. Those numbers are, I'm sure, to change as spring ball progresses, but let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And that is going to conclude my video for today. I appreciate you guys for tapping in. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you comment down below. What are your thoughts about what I said today? All the topics I covered today. UFL coming back, women's tournament, men's tournament, really good things happening. Spring ball going on in college. Let me know how your college spring ball is looking. Let me know how your team is looking. Are they looking good? Are you worried? Do you guys need to hit the portal? Just leave me a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Thank you guys for tapping in, and I will catch you guys next week.